First thing, my name is Margaret Hall.
Okay,
So,
tell us a wee bit about yourself.
well, I came here in 1961 and then I started having children. I had 4 girls.
What was it like before you left, before you came to Scotland? What was your life like in Jamaica?
In Jamaica now, I was more going to the fields with my dad, go and help. Maybe sometimes my mom would make the tea and send it up. We, as girls, because I had 4 sisters, so we go to the field to help our dad in the field, not to do the work, but just to hang around as young people at the time,
So there's a big difference between Glasgow and Scotland. What brought you to Glasgow in the first place?
Well, Joe came first, and then, after he came, then he sent for me.
Okay, who was Joe?
Joe was my hubby.
Yeah. So you were married in Jamaica, then you came over to Glasgow.
Yes.
What kind of difference did you experience coming from Jamaica to Glasgow?
Well, the weather. It was so hot. Out there is very hot, and you come here, it was snow and things like that, but it never bothered us. We kind of grew up in the weather that we were having here.
So what were your feelings when you were leaving the Caribbean and coming to Scotland? What kind of feelings were you having?
It was very sad knowing that I left 4 sisters out there at the time and my 2 brothers, but in Jamaica there a lot of young people were traveling abroad, so it helped me to come away, so that's it.
So the original plan was that you were going to come to Scotland for 5 years. 56 years later, you're still here. What happened?
I met with a lot of Scottish people, and then start going to the church. The church people, and they were very helpful and kind. And with the girls them that I had, they used to come and help me with the girls them, like Mrs. Lindsay. She was like a mother to me, looking after the kids. So, and there was a wee swing park down at Kingston Street that she would come down every Tuesday. We call her Auntie Alice. She came down and helped me with the kids, take them to the park, and give me a little time to myself, because Joe was on the buses working. So, it's a lot.
So was it like the church became like your family?
Like my family, that's right. And met so many different people in the church at the time, and true that the girls, they gave this one name Auntie, and everybody was Auntie for them, because my sisters, they were back home, so.
Tell us a wee bit about how the church and people in the church helped you over these years.
Yes.
It's a long time, 56 years.
Yeah, well, Auntie Alice, as I said, she was like a mother for Joe and myself, and she was like a mom. She come down every Tuesday and she would take the kids them out, because it was one after the other until, they grew. But I give God thanks that, the church had done a lot for us as family, and we met up with Jackie in the church, and the church was out at Catcott Road there at the time, and it was just a hall and a downstairs, so the kids, they would go down there to play or do whatever, So it's a lot. It's
You
a
must
lot.
have seen a lot of changes in the church
Oh
over the
yes,
years.
yes I do. I
What's the
do.
things that you remember the most?
Well, different people come in and out, you know, come in and out, and some of the folks were still seen at the moment, you know. So it's not so bad.
Have you got any hopes or ideas or wishes for the future for the church? What would you like to see happen in Glasgow
Well,
in the next 10 years or so?
well, I don't think I won't be around for that 10 years, Andy, but the Lord knows best, and He'll. All the young ones, them know that are growing up, especially my grandchildren, them they'll get a great future for them coming up in the world.
Max, can I say, what was the biggest impact that Glasgow has had on your life? Or the Glasgow Elim Church, what was the biggest impact?
Well, going to the church, you know, I think it helps us as leaving Jamaica and come here, you know, meet different people. As I said, Mrs. Lindsay, can't forget her, even though she's in heaven now, but she was one of, like my mother. She was like my mother, you know. She looked after me, she looked after Joe, she looked after the children that come up one after the other, because Val is her godmother, just, you know, and she still kept up with it.
You've seen a lot of changes in the church in terms of
Oh, yes.
you were the first black person
That's
and
right.
black family in the church. What do you see now when you look around?
Well, there's still a mixture, but I don't let that bother me now, because, you know, it's great to see the crowd that comes in now. But in those days, well, the Cathcart Road was where the church was first. And it was just, as I said, you know, downstairs where the kids, they playing up the stairs, and it was Pastor Kelly and his daughter, you know, help out in the church there. But so many different ministers came after that. But we're still there. Well, I'm still there anyway, you know.
What was Pastor Kelly like?
Oh, great man. He was a great minister. He really was.
You become great friends with a lot of the pastors. In fact,
Yes.
some of them even managed to visit you out in Jamaica. What was that like when
Oh.
Kevin and Margaret were there?
Oh, they were great, man. They were really good. You know, we took them different places, and they able to eat the different types of meals and all that, you know. They were very good, very good.
Was that a big thrill for you to have them out?
Oh
and chat?
yes, oh yes, oh yes.
What's the biggest change have you noticed in the way that church is done? Is the music a lot louder? Is it a lot faster? What do you notice?
You mean like now?
Yeah, between when you first came and now.
Well, I never really used to music playing, and you know, in that form, but the music now is really good. It's good from those days, you know, because they didn't have all different instruments of such, you know. But
It must have been coming over from Jamaica to Scotland, going through there must be a lot of trials and testing times. How has your faith helped you get through a lot of these perhaps troubles and difficulties that have come your way?
well, you know, when you're young, those days you don't think of things, you know, because I know, well, Joe is here, and then he's got all his friends them from his workplace and all these things. So, you know, I've never had any problem. And the neighbor that we had at Kingston Street, we call her Auntie Rocky. Well, the girls them call her Auntie Rocky, you know. Her name was Mrs. Rodford and her hubby, and they were really like a mother and father to even ourselves than them, you know, and they were very helpful, you know.
What ways have you seen the church making an impact on your family? Obviously you had 4 daughters.
Yes,
So
oh
where have you
yes.
seen that having an impact on their lives?
Well, they always want to go to church, you know, and they used to sing. All 4 of the girls, them, you know, they used to take part in the singing in the church. So it kind of built us up a wee bit, you know.
You made a lot of friends over the years, I would think, Max.
Oh, I think so. Mhm. I'm not able to visit certain ones of them now, but we had a great time, great time, great time, great time. Especially church in Glasgow.
So you were married to someone who was a deacon for 40 odd years.
Mhm.
Did that put any pressure on you, having to behave or turn up at things? Or
Not at all, no, you're just free to do what you want to do. No?
that's good.
Yeah.
Max.
No, that's great. Thank you, Max. It's perfect.
Hi, my name's Iain Waddell. I was born in Glasgow, lived in Aikenhead Road. Truth be told, I actually worked in the bus works just over the wall there until 1978. I went to Bible college. My first flirtation with Elim Church was actually in Butterbiggins Road in the 50s when I would come with my Aunt Alice. And then once they moved to the dance hall in Cathcart Road, I came down one Sunday night in early '63, and began to hear the gospel. My background is kind of mixed. My mother was a Protestant, my dad was a Roman Catholic. I wouldn't go either place really, so eventually they sent me to Sunday school. And just one Sunday I just felt, I'm not going to play football today, I think I'll just go down to church. And I came down to Elim Church and began to hear the gospel. They needed to be saved, and it kind of took me aback because I was a very good living kind of guy. In those days, discipline was something in the house, so you behaved. If you disobedient outside the house, you suffered when you got home. So we were on a tight rope. So when I came, I heard the gospel, and for weeks I was under conviction of sin. Then I went one Monday night to the tent hall in Steele Street where they had soccer. And then they had an open air afterwards, and it was there I gave my life to the Lord. In a 1963 Maroon B Austin Marina, Carros in Cambridge. And my life completely changed from there. I remember a teacher at school, because I left school when I was 15 with nothing. Teacher saying to me, Waddell, because they were very formal in the schools I went to, you will never achieve anything or be anything. And she would probably been right, but she would never realise that when I became 16, I met the Lord as my Saviour, and things changed. Like a wee light went on in my head, and things changed. So I started to come to the church here. By that time I was working in the motor trade as an apprentice coach painter and sign writer. And we just got involved in the church. And I remember Jackie and I coming along, and some nights Pastor Kelly would ask Jackie to lead choruses, and sometimes he would ask me to lead choruses, and we would laugh together, because at times if you come off the platform after having 3 choruses, because we had 3 choruses sang twice, we'd come off the platform and we'd wait to see what the accolade was, and Pastor Kelly would say, thank you, Jackie, or thank you, and that was fine, or that was excellent, or whatever. And we just get involved in the church. We would never have considered going a holiday if it clashed with the church. We would never have considered moving house unless we could actually still come to the church. In those days, you know, the prayer meeting and the Bible study was part of your life. We would come on a Friday night to do, because it was church cleaning, it was a scribology, because it was church, everything had to have a knowledge at the end of it. So we would just come down, and of course Joe Hall was one of the deacons at the time, and I would be a young man at 16, and Joe took me alongside him, and he started to teach me a bit of joinery work, which stood me in good stead for many years, because over the years I renovated churches and built churches, and I've been doing that really most of my life now. And then we just worked away, and I got married. I met my wife here I think 1963. She would only be 15 and I was 16. And eyes met across a crowded church, as it were. And we got out together and we got engaged in 1966. By that time, Amy and I were working in the youth, as with Jackie. We did a bit of preaching. Most Saturday nights we'd be out at a railway mission or a Siemens mission or an under railway arts mission. We were out every Saturday night, doing deputation work. That's when you learnt to sing and when your cutting edge of preaching came in. And as time went on then, we got married in 1968. And then as you do in those days, when you became 21, you became a deacon. So I was a deacon from 1968 to 1978. And it was interesting. Pastor Kelly retired in 1974. Fine man of God. I wouldn't be where I am today in the things of God if it hadn't been for Pastor Kelly's good grace and perseverance and faithfulness, taking me through some of the difficult times. So we thank God for men like Pastor Kelly, and I often wonder if Pastor could come back and see how faithful he had been over the years to what the work is now. Because one sows, one reaps, but God gives the increase. And we like to give God thanks for all that he has done. So then Stephen Hilliard came on the scene. I think it was Friday the 4th of October, 1974. And Stephen Hilliard came. My father-in-law at that time was the treasurer, and I was the secretary. And Stephen came along, who happened just by chance to be my wife's cousin, which was interesting. Stephen came along. I was Sunday school superintendent, but then it was a new brush. We did new things. And Stephen wanted to have an electric organ because in church life, you couldn't have God moving unless you had a piano at one side and an organ with a spinning Leslie speaker at the other side. So because Stephen could play, then he wanted somebody to play an organ. But by that time, sadly, there was nobody left in Glasgow who could play. Over the years, we had some very fine musicians in the church, from Billy Beatson, Myra Kelly, who was Pastor Kelly's daughter, Thomas Burns, Patricia Lindsay, Jean Barber. Very fine. When I started playing piano way back many years ago, I was the understudy to the understudy's understudy. And a Tuesday night, we would play the kind of same song, sing the wondrous love of Jesus and whatever. So when Stephen came, the church decided they would like an organist. So anyway, the church very kindly sent me for 10 weeks organ lessons, which was 1975. And after 10 weeks, the man who was the music teacher said to me, I could teach you to play like a parrot, or you could start at the beginning. So at the age of 27, I started grade 1 piano, and then grades 2, 3, and 4 theory, and grades 1, 3, and 5 practical. Over the years, I'd said to Amy, because Amy's Uncle Willie, who left this church away back in 1928 to become an Elim pastor, we would go and visit them every summer, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. And the man was so enthusiastic for God. Every time I came back in the summer, I would say to Amy, I think God's calling me into pastoral ministry. And Amy would say, no, I don't think so. And of course, I couldn't go without Amy, obviously. So we just put it to bed and we left it. And then when it came to 1977, my music teacher was saying, Iain, you're old enough now. We'll do grade 7 for 18 months. Then we'll do grade 8. And it was always my desire to be able to play Chopin, whatever. And then suddenly in 1977, come the summer again, it was like a summer kind of fever. I felt the Lord saying to me, I want you to go to Bible college. Now by this time I would be 30, 31, because I'd been 16 years at motor trade. And I said to Amy, I said, this old itch has appeared again, dear. So she prayed about it and she said to me, I believe it's right. So I applied to the Bible college in January of 78, never heard a thing, thought they'd forgot about it. And then I got a letter to say, you have a place booked. You don't have to come down for an interview. I'd met some of the senior guys before, so they knew me, so a place was booked in 1978. So we farewelled, actually farewelled from Kirkintilloch, because they didn't have anybody playing piano in those days, so I helped out there for a little while. And I went to Bible college. Some of the exciting things that happened in the past is seeing how the church had developed over the years. A great changing point for the church was late 60s when we were in the wee dance hall in Cathcart Road. Jackie and I got a phone call one day, could we go down to the church? It's in fire. And we're not talking Pentecostal fire, we're talking here with fire engines people running in with hoses, and it burnt a massive hole in the floor. A fire had been set on the back door. We were out for 6 weeks. We were in temporary accommodation. But amazingly, the church began to pick up after that fire. And we were in the church a couple of years, and suddenly we had another fire, vandalism again. It would be the early 70s, and we were out for almost a year during that time. But it was a great proving time, and whatever. And as we saw the oversight expanding. And then when Stephen came in 74, the turning point basically in the church after that was suddenly Mr. and Mrs. Hill got saved, who were down and visiting family down in Runcorn or somewhere. And they came with like 6 of a family, and their cousins came, the Martins came, and things began to change in the church. And it was an exciting time, seeing new people coming in and things beginning to happen. These were, as I say, very exciting days. And then the Lord spoke to me about going to Bible college, and I left in 1978. But prior to these things, we would run the youth. And I remember Jackie and I downstairs in the old Glasgow church, Cathcart Road, and Pastor Kelly came down, who was very kind of prim and proper, always had his umbrella. He had 2 umbrellas, one that he wore for the summer and one he had for the winter, and he always had the crook over his arm, walking. And he came down to the youth one night, and I'm talking to Pastor Kelly, and I noticed some of the kids must have sat in his good hat and squashed it, and I'm trying to speak to Pastor Kelly, because in those days pastors were untouchable. It was never, hello Walter, hello Jim, how are you? It was always Pastor Kelly or Pastor Smith or whatever. And I'm trying to talk to Pastor Kelly, but at the corner I can see Jackie punching out this hat again to get it in shape so that he could lie it down and everything would be fine again. So Jackie and I used to have the accolade of being the youngest deacons in Scotland of the day. I don't know what happened. Suddenly we blinked and I'm retired and Jackie's retired. But we worked together and it was good to see, and we tried as best we could to support Pastor in every possible way that they could. I left to go to Bible college, having, being the organist, pianist weeknight, and being a local lay preacher, and being the Sunday school superintendent. But we went to Bishop Auckland, but we always kept close ties with the church because of family, and we would come and visit. And I remember the struggle it was trying to get a new building, because trying to get a building in Glasgow, the man who was the main problem at the council was dare I say this, I don't know if this is PC, but he was an Irish Roman Catholic who wasn't very happy in the church getting a new building. They'd offered us the Greek Thompson structure down there, which I passed on the way in. But the church held out. And I remember Joe Hall saying to me one day, Ian, we're never going to get this church. And we had just got a new building in Bishop Auckland. And I said, Joe, it will happen just in his time. I've just got to hang on and wait. In his time, it will take place. And then John Smith, who was the administrative secretary then, very sharp man, very supportive, very pastoral of heart, came up and dealt with it. He said he was the most difficult council ever to deal with, because for a short while we were further down Cathcart Road for a little while. And then the building came along, and Pastor Morrell was the speaker then. And if truth be told, I think historically, I was the first person to ever speak in this new building the first Sunday morning, which was a great honour to do so. Some of the highs of Glasgow, basically for me, for my spiritual life, was basically the opportunity that I had to serve. I mean, I was a young man. I remember when Pastor Kelly would first ask me if I thought he was going to ask me to open in prayer, and I was standing at the back, I would sneak out the door so he couldn't see me. It was quite terrifying. But the Bible studies, the grounding in the Word of God, the opportunity to serve, and to serve under a man of God like Pastor Kelly and latterly Stephen Hilliard, was a great honour. Highs for me really, well, obviously I met my wife here, and my 2 daughters, Pauline and Pamela, were dedicated in the church, and thankfully they're still both going on with the Lord. The low point in the church was obviously the 2 fires, but out of that we had some great blessing and development. A low point obviously was when Jackie's first wife Alice died. She was my cousin. I mean, in my life we had never, other than my Uncle Tommy way back in the 50s, we had never lost anybody in the family before. So when Alice died when she was 29, it really was a great challenge to faith. And during that period, it was a time of great growth as we tried to support one another. But the body of Christ was very supportive. It was like a family. And if the Lord hadn't called me to Bible college, there was no way. There's no way I would ever have left Glasgow, really. I mean, I think when over the years, as I said, every year I felt as if I should go, and Amy said it's not. I can visualise it as if the Lord was trying to move an old tooth out. Yes, I'm an old tooth now, but then I was a younger tooth, trying to move an old molar out because there was something else to be done, and it was the only way you would have got me out of Glasgow, because it still is my home church. I'm excited about what's happening about it now, and I was excited to think a way back years ago that I had some input to it, as we did say, one sows, one reaps, and God gives the increase. So these were the great days. We'd have some great preachers along. Tom Walker, John Smith, the original Joseph Smith, would come along at the 40th anniversary. I can't remember who was the 50th anniversary, but that was just before I went to Bible college. But it was like a family. We had good times together. Sometimes the AGMs were a bit strange. Some of these originally, when we had these old AGMs, people would work on the principle that I can stay quiet all year, but I have a right to speak my mind at an AGM. And some of these kind of rattled my early faith when I listened to some of these supposed men and women of God. You think, okay, but we just keep focused on the King and keep focused on what he has for us. Folks, we're in for an exciting time, but it will be a testing time. But my Jesus, our Jesus, is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Saviour, the Healer, the Baptizer, and the soon coming King. God bless.